Hi everyone and welcome to today's lesson. Today we are going into Article 7 of the Digital Operational Resilience Act, or DORA. So the title of this article is Identification. Let's spend some time on the term identification as it appears in Article 7 of DORA. So you might think, I know what identification means. Why think about it? But in the context of information and communications technology, or ICT, and financial entities, it's a concept with layers worth unpacking. You see, identification here doesn't just mean naming what you have. It's the critical first step in a series of actions aimed at securing your digital assets and operations. Think of it as the foundation of a skyscraper. If you get this wrong, the foundation of the skyscraper, everything that comes after is on shaky ground. Definitely, it's not secure. So why is identification crucial? First, we have asset recognition. Before you can protect anything, you have to know what anything is. Are we talking about servers, customer databases, or perhaps the software that handles transactions? You need a complete list. You need a complete list of assets. Then we need to understand the roles. So once you know what you have, you also need to understand what each asset does. So what's the purpose of this asset? It is crucial for day-to-day operations, or is it maybe a backup system that only kicks in during emergencies? Definitely, we have assets, their roles, but they are interconnected. So we have dependency mapping. Often, various ICT components are interconnected. Knowing what relies on what can be invaluable, especially in situations of systems failure or cyber attacks. And finally, we have regulatory compliance. So regulations like DORA are stringent about what you need to protect and how. Accurate identification helps you align with these legal requirements, thereby avoiding penalties and enhancing customer trust, definitely. So let's see an example. Let's consider a real-world incident. Yahoo had massive data breach in 2013. And this was partly because they didn't fully understand the scope of their ICT assets. They had legacy systems and databases that were not adequately protected, leading to a cyber catastrophe, definitely. So let me ask you a question. Can you think of an asset in your organization that could be a blind spot? Something that might be overlooked but is crucial. So think about this question. Identification sets the stage. This is the first part. So after identification, you are not just blindly throwing up firewalls or installing anti-malware software everywhere. You are crafting actually a tailored suit of armor for your organization, designed to protect the vital organs while ensuring you can still move swiftly and efficiently. That's the point. Like the armor on a person, all these security systems are there to protect the vital organs, vital parts of your organization. So identification is not just a list or an inventory. It's an in-depth understanding of your digital realm that informs every decision you make regarding security and resilience. It's a proactive approach, not a reactive one. So, again, question. If you had just 24 hours to identify and document all your ICT assets and their functions, would you be able to do it? What challenges do you foresee? So, maybe you can, maybe not, depending on the size of the company, definitely, and the complexity of the system. But can you identify at least crucial ones, important ones? Let's now go into Article 7 and each section one by one. So we have Article 7, Section 1. So this is first section of the Article 7. So we have the text. Text reads, as part of the ICT risk management framework referred to in Article 5, first paragraph, financial entities shall identify, classify, and adequately document all ICT-related business functions, the information assets supporting these functions, and the ICT system configurations and interconnections with internal and external ICT systems. If you want to remember that article, you can also again see that lesson for Article 5. So this text is a mouthful, isn't it? But it's crucial. Let's break it down. So we have first identify, classify, document. So this is something called the triad of preparedness. So first is identify. The first step is actually about discovery. You need to know what ICT assets are in play. We're talking about hardware like servers, software like databases, or some business software, and even human elements like the IT team or some different functions in your company. Then we have classify. Once you know what you have, you need to categorize them. Not all assets are created equal. Some are critical for business continuity, while others are less so. So classifying them helps you prioritize your protection efforts. And in the end, we have document. So you need to record of everything. You need to document everything. Again, this is not just a list. It's a detailed document stating what each asset does, its configurations, and how it interacts with other assets. Here are also mentioned ICT-related business functions, so just to understand what that means. ICT-related business functions are the activities that involve the use of information and communication technology, or ICT, to support the core business processes of an organization. ICT can help improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and innovation and customer satisfaction of a business. So some examples of these ICT-related business functions are like designing, developing, and maintaining applications that serve the business needs, for example. So development, design. Then we have integrating IT staff and resources with business partners to deliver IT solutions. Analyzing data and using it to plan the business strategy and growth. So business analysis, data analysis. And also, for example, you have functions that provide self-service capabilities and feedback mechanisms for customers and employees. We also have mentioned here about information assets supporting these functions. So here we are referring to the actual data or information that these ICT functions use or protect. In a financial trading system, for example, this could be the customer trading records. Then we have ICT system configurations and interconnections. So finally, in the end, the section talks about understanding how all these elements are set up, meaning configurations, and how they relate to each other, so their interconnections. This is crucial for understanding the flow of data and potential points of vulnerability. So think about it. Within your organization's ICT environment, can you identify an asset or business function that, if compromised, could lead to a significant business disruption? What classification would you give it, and why? Section 2 talks about constant vigilance in identifying ICT risks. So the text specifies, financial entities shall on a continuous basis identify all sources of ICT risk, in particular the risk exposure to and from financial entities, and assess cyber threats and ICT vulnerabilities. So this language may sound formal, but the message is clear and crucial. Always be on your guard. So the continuous nature of risk identification. The point is that this section emphasizes the word continuous, which means that this isn't a one-off process. Risks evolve, new vulnerabilities are discovered every day, and threat actors come up with innovative ways to exploit your systems. Therefore, risk identification is an ongoing process, almost like a 24/7 surveillance system for your digital assets. Then we have sources of ICT risk. When we talk about sources of ICT risk, we are not just referring to potential hackers or malware. It's a broader term encompassing system vulnerabilities, personnel who might be susceptible to phishing attacks, outdated software, and much more. Then we have mention of risk exposure to and from other financial entities. So the section specifically highlights risk exposure concerning other financial entities. Why? Why is this mentioned? Because in today's interconnected digital landscape, your risk profile isn't just determined by your actions, but also by the actions or inactions of entities you interact with, of others. Then we have assessing cyber threats and ICT vulnerabilities. So the aim here is not just to spot potential dangers, but also to assess them. How likely is a certain risk to manifest in your organization, and what would be its impact? Assessment helps in prioritizing risk management efforts. So this is important. So in the context of your organization, have you considered how your security posture is affected by the vendors, partners, or even customers you interact with digitally? What steps could you take to minimize risks emanating from these interactions? So this section 2 of Article 7 serves as a call for relentless vigilance, meaning to be on guard. It asks financial entities to never let guard down and to always be assessing and reassessing the ICT risk landscape. So always assess and reassess your risks. Let's continue. The section 3 brings us into the realm of proactive risk management, and it holds particular importance. So the text reads, financial entities other than micro-enterprises shall perform a risk assessment upon each major change in the network and information system infrastructure, in the process or procedures affecting their functions, supporting processes, or information assets. So let's go part by part. So first we have financial entities other than micro enterprises. So the section explicitly excludes micro enterprises, meaning that smaller businesses are not held to this particular standard. The rationale behind this could be the potentially maybe overwhelming compliance burden on smaller entities. It's maybe difficult for them to do this because of lack of resources. Then it says perform a risk assessment upon each major change. So here it is mentioned major change. This is important. We are not talking about everyday tweaks, some changes, small changes, but about substantial modifications. This could be from introducing new software to changing how your data is stored or even reconfiguring network settings. Then we have network and information system infrastructure. This is the backbone of your ICT environment. Any change here is like altering the foundation of a building. And it's crucial to understand how these changes affect the overall stability and security of the entire structure, definitely. So you need to see if there are changes in network and information system infrastructure. Then we have processes or procedures affecting their functions, supporting processes or information assets. So it's not just about hardware or software. It's also about how you do things. Any change in processes, like a new method of data encryption, can introduce new vulnerabilities. So think about it. So also think about a recent major change within your organization. Perhaps you were migrating to cloud or implementing a new authentication protocol, maybe two-factor or more-factor authentication. Did you conduct a proactive risk assessment? If not, what vulnerabilities might you have overlooked? Think about it. This is very important. So this Article 7, Section 3 urges financial entities to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to risk management. You need to, actually, it's a clear call to pause and evaluate before leaping into any significant changes. It's similar to checking the depth of the water. So you are checking the depth of the water before diving in, because failing to do so could lead you straight into hospital, and you could break your back. I mean, this is funny, but in a way it's true, because I also know some people who really hurt themselves by jumping into water which they didn't check before, and it was too shallow, so they broke even their back or legs or something. Or we know the cases of people dying because of this. So this is similar in a company. You need to check everything, do the risk assessment before any significant change. Let's continue to the section 4 of this article. So we have arrived at new section which focuses on asset and account identification. So the regulation states, financial entities shall identify all ICT system accounts, including those on remote sites, the network resources and hardware equipment, and shall map physical equipment considered critical. So let's go into each of these key components. Saying first, identify all ICT systems accounts. So in this context, accounts refer to the different user and system accounts that have access to your ICT systems. This could be everything from an admin account on your main server to a guest account on your company's Wi-Fi network. Somebody thinking guest account is not important. Oh, guest account can be very important and very dangerous. So knowing what accounts exist is the first step in securing them. Then it says including those on remote sites. So the scope here isn't limited to just what's in your main office. It extends to remote sites, which could be anything from a backup data center located in another city to cloud storage accounts hosted in another country maybe. So include the remote sites. Then we have network resources and hardware equipment. This is more than just accounts, You also need to identify all the devices connected to your network, from servers, routers, laptops, smartphones, etc. So each of these can be a potential vulnerability point if not properly managed. So make sure to include network resources and hardware equipment. And then says, map physical equipment considered critical. So critical equipment is that which, if compromised, could severely impact your business operations. These could be the servers hosting your customer data or the firewall appliances protecting your network. Mapping them out means creating a visual or documented representation of how these critical assets are connected, both to each other and to less critical assets. So think about it. Within your organizational ICT architecture, have you identified and mapped out the physical and digital assets that are critical to your operations? How could a compromise of these assets impact your business? Then we have section 5. So this is a segment that brings third-party interactions into the spotlight. So the text says, financial entities shall identify and document all processes that are dependent on ICT third-party service providers and shall identify interconnections with ICT third-party service providers. So in today's interconnected business environment, this section is incredibly important. So let's go step by step. So first says, identify and document all processes that are dependent on ICT third-party service providers. So here the regulation is directing you to make a list and check it twice. Why? You need to identify. You need to identify all your business processes that rely on third-party ICT services. So this can be from something as basic as your company's email client to something as complex as a cloud-based big data analytics service. So it's not enough just to know these third parties exist. You must understand how you are using them, how you are connected. For example, do you rely on a third-party service for encrypting sensitive customer data? Or maybe you use another service for fraud detection. Each of these dependencies needs to be clearly identified and documented. Then it says, identify interconnections with ICT third-party service providers. Interconnection goes beyond mere usage. This is about understanding the data flow between you and your third-party service providers. For instance, does your customer data go from your local service to some third-party cloud for processing and then back again? If so, each of these data transfer points is an interconnection that needs to be identified and understood and definitely protected. So think about your organization's dependency on third-party services. Have you documented how these services are interconnected with your business processes? What would be the impact if one of these third-party services was compromised? So think about it, all the risks connected with it, So this part is really important. Many problems, many threats are connected with connections with third-party services. And many incidents happened because of third-party services. So think about it, study it, and make your risk assessment on those third-party services. The next section is about importance of inventory management. So text says that for the purposes of paragraph 1, 4, and 5 from this article, financial entities shall maintain and regularly update relevant inventories. So meaning your tables, information, whatever you collected. So on the surface, this might seem like a straightforward administrative task. But in the realm of ICT risk management, inventory management is very important. So let's explore why. It says first, for the purposes of paragraph 1, 4, and 5. So this section explicitly ties back to the requirements laid out in sections 1, 4, and 5 of Article 7. This is a reminder that inventory management isn't a standalone task. It's a key component that supports your efforts in asset and account identification, as well as third-party interactions, as we mentioned before. And says then, maintain and regularly update relevant inventories. So relevant inventories is crucial, this term. You're not just keeping a list of assets, you're keeping an updated record that's relevant to specific requirements of the earlier sections. This means your inventory should include details like asset classifications, third-party dependencies, what we mentioned, and interconnections among various ICT components. Maintaining this inventory isn't a one-and-done task. So it requires regular updates to reflect any changes, such as new assets, decommissioned hardware, or altered third-party relationships. So how are changes in your ICT environment, such as introduction of new software or the discontinuation of third-party service, reflected in your inventory management process? Do you have a formal procedure for updating these inventories or not? If not, you should make it, you should create it. Let's go to the final, Article 7, Section 1. As we reach this final part of our exploration into this article, this section, Section 7, focuses on the often overlooked topic of legacy systems. If you have legacy systems, so this regulation specifies, that financial entities other than micro enterprises shall on a regular basis and at least yearly conduct a specific ICT risk assessment on all legacy ICT systems, especially before and after connecting old and new technologies, applications, or systems. So this section is a wake-up call to organizations, reminding them that while the attraction of new technology is strong, one cannot afford to neglect what's already in place. So let's break this little down. Financial entities other than micro enterprises, we know that. So again, smaller enterprises are given some leeway, likely to alleviate the compliance burden. But for larger entities, there are no excuses for ignoring legacy systems. I would say nobody should ignore them, because I saw so many examples. Because of ignoring legacy systems, companies got in problems. Was it hackers using some vulnerabilities of the systems, or virus infections, or whatever? Anyway, then it says on a regular basis and at least yearly. So this implies that a one-off check isn't sufficient. That means one time that you do it. Legacy systems, by their nature, can become more vulnerable over time as they miss out on security updates, for example, or they are not anymore updated in some other ways. So their risk profile needs regular re-evaluation. So you need to check all time these systems. Then says conduct a specific ICT risk assessment on all legacy ICT systems. So the focus here is on specific risk assessments tailored to legacy systems. You need to study what are the risks connected with these systems. So these are older technologies that were often designed without modern security considerations, definitely. So making them potentially vulnerable in some new and unique ways. Then says, especially before and after connecting old and new technologies, applications or systems. So this is a crucial point. Mixing old and new technologies can create unexpected vulnerabilities. A legacy system may not be designed to handle the security protocols of a new application. So, creating a gap that could be exploited by some threat actor. There is an example, a real-world example. I mean, I saw some examples in my experience, but there is one big example. In 2017, there was a ransomware called WannaCry. So one of the reasons it had such a widespread use, one of the reasons it had such a widespread and devastating impact was that it targeted older versions of Windows that were still in widespread use, but no longer receiving security updates. Hospitals in particular were hit hard, as many still relied on legacy systems for critical operations. So think about your organizations. Have you identified all the legacy systems within your organization's ICT infrastructure? What plans do you have for conducting risk assessments on these older technologies, especially when they interact with newer systems? Maybe you have totally new systems, then you don't have to worry about this. But if you have some legacy systems, you need to assess the risks. So, navigating Article 7 of DORA is similar to having a well-crafted architectural plan for fortifying your digital empire, meaning some good foundation. So, just as an architect, wouldn't dare to construct a building without a detailed blueprint, you shouldn't operate a financial entity without a thorough understanding and constant vigilance over your ICT landscape, your ICT infrastructure. So this article helps you guide you to creating a robust, resilient, and secure ICT environment. It brings focus to areas often overlooked, reminding us that every component, be it a legacy system or a third-party service, plays a role in the intricate web of modern-day cybersecurity. So that's it for Article 7. If you have any question, you can send me a message or send us an email. But I think we explained enough of this Article 7 in this video. So thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson.